Welcome back to The Creatives, everybody. This is episode 18. You are listening to The Creatives Podcast, where we explore creativity through conversation. And today I am joined by Christopher Roussakis. Christopher is an artist, a photographer, creative director, and founder of Phantom Productions. Phantom Productions, from what I gather, is a Ottawa-based video, photo, and animation studio. And we're gonna get into that all today on this episode. Before we begin, I'd like to thank Pano Media for sponsoring this podcast with all of these production tools. Pano Media is a video production service based in Ottawa where they specialize in commercial drone real estate video production. And I'd also like to thank Midnight Hour Studios for giving us this lovely space where we create this podcast. Midnight Hour Studios is giving you, the listener, 25% off your first booking. All the details of that will be down in the description box below. And without further ado, welcome, Chris.
Yes, thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here, man.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a little bit about the show. So the Creatives Podcast was a side project. Decided to kind of endeavor. This is my third attempt at a podcast, like, in my lifetime. And
what happened to the other two?
It was no one's ever asked that. What happened to the other two? Without getting political, I guess, I mean, they just didn't work out because the efforts were not matched, I guess, with the other people involved. There were multiple people involved. I think that's what was difficult about it.
Oh, yeah.
The conversations either got stale or the work was not evenly distributed and they kind of fell apart. And then also life happened and COVID happened. And here we are on the third attempt. This is The Creatives. This is episode 18. So we're getting
That's
up there.
awesome.
Thank you. Yeah. So I wanted to establish this platform where people could talk about themselves, share their stories, share their work, share some insights. And it was not just for personal gain. It was also for the benefit of the creative community because, I mean, everyone is one mutual friend away from knowing each other. I'm sure you know, like 20 people that I know, but now we know each other. So, essentially, I wanted to establish this sort of platform. And I also wanted to network in the creative community while also challenging myself with production, audio. And then also this allowed me to have kind of a project that I could work on with my team consistently, that we could get creative with, that we can mess around with. And there was no rules. There was no client breathing down your neck saying has to be done by this date. There's a budget. It's just kind of free flow. You say whatever you want and you interview whoever you want, and there's no corporate sponsorship. I mean, technically there is corporate sponsorship, but that's not their interest. But that's pretty much The Creatives in a nutshell. I mean, it's evolving, I guess. Yeah. It's always changing. But I'm grateful that you're here today. So thank you for being here, Chris.
Yep, I'm excited.
Yeah, man, I'm pumped. So I want to dive into the origin story of Chris Roussakis.
Yep. Chris
is short for, is it Christophoros?
Christopoulos, if you want to go by the Greek name.
That's awesome.
I think the people that know me well in the city will laugh at that. There was a transition to using my Greek name recently in film. Okay.
From just Chris to Chris.
Yeah, I'm not that interesting, so I wanted to seem a little bit more interesting, so I went with Christopoulos.
Nice.
Yeah,
that's awesome. Christopoulos, with an L or R at the end.
If you want to get into there's many ways to spell it, but an R is usually
okay.
Yeah,
that's cool. So were you born in Greece? How did you end up here?
No, my father immigrated to Canada.
Okay.
Over Pier 21, which was a main spot for immigrants in 1950s in Halifax. And oddly enough, my mom was living in Halifax at the time. They did not meet at that point in their lives.
No way.
Which would have been cool.
They must have passed each other on the street at least.
She was probably waving to the boat coming in and being like, "Welcome to Canada." Or at least I like to think that's the story.
That's a more fun story.
Yeah, we'll start that story today.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, they both, had no connection to Ottawa and ended up here. Just life brought them here, and they had me. I was born and raised here
in Ottawa.
In Ottawa.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you grew up here. Do you mind me asking, how old were you? How old are you? When were you born?
Yeah. Okay, we're doing math now. Yeah, I am 34.
Nice. Okay.
And yeah, lived the 90s life in Ottawa. Grew up.
What was that like?
Ottawa's changed a lot. And I think, if we're talking about creativity, it's changed dramatically since I was a kid.
Compared to the 90s? Or
yeah,
just like early 2000s?
Yeah,
area?
Even if we go back to the 2000s, like I don't remember half of the stuff that we're doing now being a thing then.
Like this, podcasting?
Podcasts weren't really that cool back then, right? So we didn't have Spotify and all that and YouTube. But here we are. Yeah. I'm excited to see what, the next 35 years look like in the city with creativity.
Should be cool.
Yeah.
So were you immersed in that creative scene like at the time, and how? Like what was it?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'll be very honest with you. The creative juices did not come from my parents. They were big supporters of it. But what took place was my cousin, who's still in Montreal, was and still is a VFX specialist. Worked with James Cameron on multiple projects.
Wow.
Worked at Ubisoft on a couple big games. And him and I always had a connection that was, very fluid and strong with, creativity. And he was always the one that was like kind of pushing me to explore that.
Okay.
And even to this day, we're co-producing a documentary right now together. And, that probably wouldn't have happened if he didn't put his name on it, right? So if I'm to give you the background of how creativity came into my system, it's really through my cousin, Dean Lewis. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And is he still doing VFX nowadays?
Yeah, I mean, he does everything, and he does it at a high level too. He's a trusted, script writer. He still does VFX, but I would say most of his stuff is getting projects off the ground and, helping things get distributed and yeah.
That's epic. So now, from what I gather, you are a director. You are a photographer. I think, was that your first initial kind of start? Was because I've looked through your portfolio. You have like endless images on Getty Images.
Yeah. Okay. So
like
you
cool
want to pull it back a bit.
I'm just curious. Like, how did you get a camera in your hand? Like what? Like,
so what happened was at the end of the day, and I remember this moment. And we're getting pretty close to like anniversary dates here.
Okay.
I was graduating high school.
Nice.
And I wanted a DSLR. And this is at the time where not a lot of people had DSLRs, right? And I really just wanted one because it looked cool.
Like look cool in your hand? Or
I was
just
like,
thought
these look cool. It looks like,
interesting reason.
Like something that someone would envy,
yeah.
like a nice watch, like
yeah.
I was just like, ooh, that looks sick.
Badass.
I want that. And so I asked for one for my grad for high school and I got one, but I also was toying with the idea of going to Algonquin. And I knew my family desperately wanted me to go to university. So I did go to university. And I did a little bit of journalism. I did a little bit of film. But I was deeply involved with the student newspaper at Carleton University, The Charlatan. Shout out to The Charlatan, by the way.
That's amazing. I went to Carleton too.
So if I ever make millions and millions of dollars, I am going to give them a big check one day for the thanks of what they did for my career. But that's how it started. I walked in there one day and I had got a new camera that I had dropped a course in university and took that money to buy that camera.
Without telling your parents?
Without telling my parents.
You took the refund?
Yeah.
Oh my
yeah. And basically I felt super guilty about doing that. And I was saying this in a first year seminar that I was taking with a bunch of people from a bunch of different courses. And someone in there was a full-time journalism student and said, well, you should volunteer at the Charlatan. The next day I walked into the Charlatan and I was like, hey, I have this camera. do you think I could get a photo assignment like sometime this year? And they're like, here's a photo assignment. Can you get this done and bring it back to us tomorrow? Mm-hmm. And I was like,
was this a good camera at the time?
I mean, was it was rare a Rebel XT.
Someone? But it was rare at that time. Like, it wasn't common for people to have them,
it was
right?
not common for people to just have $1,500 cameras.
And phones were not.
Phones did not have cameras.
No.
Oh my God. Shit.
So yeah, for them you were just like this angel that walked in.
Yeah.
Like, I want to take photos for you.
So basically, they had given me that assignment, and I still look at that photo, you know, every so often to just remind myself like how far we've come, you know, in the career and just as a creative. But that was it. It was a portrait of a professor in her office, and she still works at Carleton. When I was working for Carleton on freelance work, I'd see her from time to time. She had no idea the story. I told her it like 15 years later, and she was like, "Oh, I don't remember this at all," which it was sad. I kind of was hoping for like the storybook ending where it was like, "Yeah, I remember you. I always wondered what you were gonna do in life now." But that's how it started, and no joke, by third year, I was failing out. And I remember it was a conscious decision just to enroll so I could work at the Charlatan. I didn't give a shit about, you know, actually going to class. I just wanted to be able to work at the Charlatan.
Were you just not interested in school?
Not interested in school whatsoever.
Okay. Were your parents pissed about that?
Well, this is the turning point was in the winter of my third year. Mm-hmm. I remember vividly being on the phone with my mom, and I was on an OC Transpo bus, crowded, coming from school to, you know, where I was living at the time. And she sensed something in me, and she was like, "Are you happy?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" She was like, do you really want to like be at Carleton? And I was like, "Not really." And she was like, "Well, what's the plan?" And I was like, "Well, there's this school in Belleville that does photojournalism." And she was like, "Well, you should apply." And I had not thought about applying because I thought it would, you know, really disappoint my parents to leave Carleton. And the day after I applied and got in, dropped out of Carleton, went to Loyalist College for photojournalism, and dropped out of Loyalist College 3 months later because I pursued freelancing in Toronto, which was, you know, going pretty well for me.
Because Loyalist it's near Kingston, right? It's closer to Toronto.
Yeah. So there's two photojournalism schools in Canada, and one is in Ontario, Loyalist College, and the other one is in Alberta, which is SAIT. And I knew I wasn't going to go to Alberta. So, and Loyalist was almost like a rite of passage to get into the photojournalism industry. Like every well-known photographer that was doing photojournalism came out of there.
Really?
Or at least, you know, I would say 75, 80%, you know? So it was a dream to go. And when I got there, it was a little less of the dream.
Loyalist isn't exactly the most extravagant town.
Oh, man, like, I'll be honest, there was things that happened there that were just, like, surprising because it's a small town, right?
Yeah.
And, like, there was even, like, racial stuff that happened that I was like, this is crazy. Like, why am I here? You know, it was 2009 that I was there. And
okay.
We're still dealing with, you know, I'm not a Muslim, but there was Islamophobia that was taking place towards me.
Wow.
In that city.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
So then you just left, and did you move to Toronto at the time?
I did move to Toronto. I lived in a shithole basement apartment across from Jack Layton's house. He was, if you know who that is.
I've heard the name, but
he was the leader of the NDP for a while.
Okay.
They call it the Orange Crush. It was the year that they did won a lot of seats in an election. But he was a cool guy, and now his wife's running for mayor of Toronto.
Did you photograph him at the time?
I don't think so, but it was just kind of cool that I was like living across the street from this like big political name at the time, but
yeah, in
the worst situation. Like I had raccoons that were like at my window every night fighting, and
raccoons are funny.
It was such a bad apartment. But I guess everybody goes through that at some point in their life, right?
Yeah,
So,
you got to go through those, like, I guess the hard times, because you don't dream on a beach. You dream in like the rough conditions.
Yeah.
I got to ask, like, at that time, were you optimistic? Were you kind of like, what the hell is going on?
Yeah.
What is my life like? Or did you know in your heart like you were going to make it?
Okay, so super honest answer.
Mm-hmm.
And I have my own show that I kind of alluded to this fact on briefly.
Okay.
But, Toronto's expensive.
Very.
And I was getting work and I was getting opportunity,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't making a ton of money.
Okay.
And there was a moment where I was in that apartment, super depressed. And I was like, if this is not going to be my life, I don't know if I can be here. And I was like, very much like, okay, do I end shit? Like, do I
Get a 9 to 5 and
no, I was like more like,
oh wow,
very like dark thoughts,
Wow.
like, and it was really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
And literally like within days of that happening,
Mm-hmm.
this mentor of mine that worked in Ottawa at the Sun called me and was like, can you come back here and cover my vacation for a month? And I was like, holy shit, yes. It was to be on Parliament Hill as a photographer.
That's so
So
cool.
it was a huge opportunity. Little did I know it was basically a job interview. And after the vacation, he was like, do you want to be, our full-time guy? And I was like, yeah, I'll move back. So I moved back shortly after moving to Toronto. It only lasted eight months.
Mm-hmm.
But there was a real time where it was like, fuck, man, like, I don't know if this is going to work out.
Yeah. But you something got you through it. And I mean, this call, maybe an angel, that guy may have saved your life in a way.
Yeah.
By just by taking a vacation, by choosing to take a vacation.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And you know what? We get a lot of interns,
Mm-hmm.
and we have a pretty young staff, and it's important for me to like remember that moment often.
Yeah.
That, even just like thinking about how my staff is making ends meet and whatnot, like we got to take care of each other in a way that, we don't get into those situations.
Mm-hmm.
So I try as much as possible to remind myself of that when I see hard times within, the young people that work for us or with us in internships.
Yeah. I can imagine there's like endless people in those situations where they're in school and they're not happy and they just like not sure what to do. I wonder, like I feel like now there's so many options that it's like a detriment to making decisions.
Of course. Yeah. Instagram wasn't even a thing when I was in
Mm-hmm.
college, right? Facebook had like kind of just started when I got to university, and I couldn't even imagine what the competitive nature, because Loyalist, there was people that were coming from high school and were just interested in photography, and we're just like, this makes sense, I'm going to go to this. And then there were people that were like, I want to be a photojournalist, I'm going to do everything I can to be a photojournalist. And that was a very select, 5 people, I would say, right? And we still talk to this day. But out of that 5 people, if Instagram was going on, I imagine we would have been like, fuck, man, you only got like 65 likes on your photo yesterday. You suck. Like, we would have been on each other. You know what I mean?
We love to quantify like success by like just some metric.
Yeah.
And like Instagram is just a magnified version
Exactly.
of that.
Exactly. Yeah. I speaking of which, I recently kind of went in a different direction with my own personal Instagram, where it was like, I'm just going to start showing the life of what this is that I'm in right now, instead of the work that we've been producing, because that's what the Phantom Productions social account is for. So
for the social accounts for like the finished piece, and then yours is like
it's my life of navigating this journey.
I love that. That's kind of an approach that I learned this approach from Gary Vee. I'm not sure if you're aware of him, but
Yeah.
he's a public figure entrepreneur, but he always talked about how you should like document, don't create, document.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been trying to embody that approach when it comes to shooting like behind the scenes and like vlogs and just like telling the story and be like, this is what we're doing. We're making a video. This is how we're kind of doing it. And it's just kind of like not polished. It's a bit messy but there is value in it.
Of course. Yeah.
So how's that going for you then, being less curated and more like just, this is it?
I really enjoy it because, I even got into this phase where it was like, I have to post 3 photos from the day so the tiles all look the same in a row. And now it's like, it's all over the place.
Yeah.
And I'm so happy that I'm like done being like, okay, I have to have 3 images or I can't post. Mm-hmm. Now it's just like, all right, I got something, I'm going to throw it up.
Yeah. And I mean, every guest that comes on the show, I'll always do research just so it can get an understanding, because we've never really met before. Mm-hmm. Which is actually, I wanted to tell the listeners, I know you through Spencer McPherson.
Yes.
This is how I know Chris. I usually let the listeners know. So Spencer is a good friend of mine. Spencer.
Let's plug him right now.
Spencer McPherson, Point 3D Commercial Imaging. They're doing really cool stuff. Spencer was an early mentor of mine. Like, he showed me how to run a business. And he was like, this is how the books look. This is what you do. This is how you email. And then he got me acquainted with like meetings and like setting up. And I was fairly young at the time, and he continues to be just an amazing person, and he offers opportunities. And he introduced me to Chris, or he told you about the show, and then I reached out, and here we are. So thank you, Spencer.
Yeah, and I think that's why I most bonded with Spencer was through the business aspect of it, right? Mm-hmm. We've skipped a couple years here, but now. I am the guy that kind of wears the suit and tie, to things. I do have multiple personalities though. At the end of the day, I like, feeling like the artist inside me and,
and expressing that,
being in all black on a shoot and stuff like that. But, then I'm at some awards on the weekend wearing a tuxedo, right? So it's very different from at least what I know a lot of other creatives are like in the city, where it's, all artist all the time.
Yeah. Do you like to like that free expression? Do you incorporate that every day all the time, or do you kind of retreat when you're not in your world of work?
Like I said, for me, I like to play the part that I got to play that day. Today I had a couple of business meetings, so I needed to wear a suit, and I was like, well, they're going to see it on the show that everybody's been wearing t-shirts and stuff.
Yeah.
So I know guys like JVL and Remy might give me a hard time about this
for the suit
after they see this episode, but or if they even watch the episode.
I mean, I'm sure. I hope they do. If they do, hello, thank you for watching. That's fun. I mean, the creative realm is so. I always found myself like this was an effort to like be more immersed in it. Yeah. Because I always felt like an outsider in like everything in my life.
Sure.
I always felt like no one understood. But the more I do these episodes and the more I speak to people, I realize like, it's just individuality. It's not necessarily disconnection from others.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, even for me, like I've always enjoyed fashion and style and whatnot. And, I have a massive shoe collection at home, and
what is massive? Like an entire room dedicated to shoes?
There's a lot. I won't give too much away. I don't want anybody breaking in. But that's what happens when you do work with guys like Normal in Ottawa, great shoe store. You just keep collecting. Yeah,
you get deals and probably free stuff, right?
Exactly.
I don't blame you, honestly. If I got free shoes, I'd be down.
Yeah, exactly.
So then I kind of want to go back to, so you got your start kind of at The Sun as a photojournalist.
So photojournalism, and it was through Reuters. So if you don't know what Reuters is, it's an international news agency.
Okay.
And
are they based in Ottawa though?
No,
or they work with The Sun?
They're in like London, England. So this is, we're going back to Toronto now.
Okay.
But if you were talking about Getty Images, right? And,
yes.
And this is how you're seeing stuff is, sometimes Reuters would push to the Getty wire is what it's called. And then images ended up there. But I also shot for AFP, which did the same thing.
Stock images?
No, it's like you would be tasked to go to like big news events like Formula One in Montreal.
Cool.
G20 summits with world leaders and whatnot. But because Getty is so big, they pull from other agencies to put on their wire so that the images can get more exposure, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why you saw so much from there. Now the Sun was. I think, everybody knows the Ottawa Sun and whatnot, but Sun Media is what owns those corporations. It's kind of different now because it's all owned by Post Media, which was originally owning the Ottawa Citizen. Wow. But the Sun and the Citizen are all owned by the same person now.
Okay.
So back when I was doing it, that was not the case. I supplied all the across Canada, all the Vancouver Sun, Edmonton Sun, Calgary Sun, and then there was a couple papers in Quebec that they pulled from. But it was a fun job, it ended at the perfect time. I was laid off. I had an early start to this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was in school at 17, so by the time I was 22, I was getting laid off by the Sun, which was totally fine because I had so much ahead of me.
Yeah.
But when it happened, I was like, oh shit, like what am I going to do? Like nobody's hiring photojournalists anymore. And that's when I transitioned to corporate and advertising photography. Mm-hmm. So everything happened for a reason. And I'm glad it did because that led me into kind of what I do now is like knowing more about, advertising and marketing. And as much as you gave me a beautiful intro, there's more to it. Phantom Productions has a parent company, which I also am a partner in, mm-hmm. which is Web Marketers.
Cool.
And Web Marketers is an ad agency at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
We also have Atomic Motion, which is a tech company which specializes in the development of apps and more technology-based AI for marketing. So there's a lot of things that we're doing now that, if had the path been different, I don't know if I would have been successful in it. Right. So,
yeah.
But you had it right. I do lead Phantom Productions.
Is that your main?
That's my main focus.
Consumer? Yeah.
But at the end of the day, when it comes to creative within the company and within the agency, I do oversee that.
Okay. So then are you hands-on with cameras or were you in the beginning?
No.
Like,
no. So, and I was kind of wondering if today was the day that I was going to say this, but I have recently retired from taking photos. I'm not doing it anymore. It's kind of weird to have the CEO or the, chief creative director of a company come to your photo shoot when you've been talking to him the whole time. And there's a team that could easily do it. Right.
Yeah.
So, I let the team do that stuff now. I direct it. If a big ad comes up, from a past client of mine, I might get out there, but, it's been some time now that I've done an ad shoot. I think the last one was maybe October of last year.
That was the last time you did a shoot.
Yeah. And on the video side, we shoot on the Arri Mini. It's a complex camera. I know enough about it, but I'm never going to operate that camera.
Yeah.
That's not my thing. We have many talented employees now that can easily do that kind of work. And I rely on them to, succeed in those areas of what we need to get done, right? I'm there to simply, take the vision and make sure that we execute on that vision.
I love that. I mean, it's as someone who is an operator, but also developing a media production company and kind of growing a team, I am still very hands-on, but I do definitely envision that kind of like almost director role where you put it in the hands of trusted people and let their skills shine. I mean, was that a hard decision to make, or did you know you're like?
I mean, Well, two things. My business partner, Kyle Smedziak, will argue that I'm not retired, probably. But at the end of the day, I was having a conversation with my lower back, and he was saying, you should give this up. We're taking a lot of heat right now, so I decided with me and my lower back that it was for the best that I stopped bringing these cameras out everywhere, because honestly, as you age, it gets worse. And I'm so thankful that we have, even these carts now, like these innovative carts that you can throw all your gear on. I'll help move that stuff for sure, but there's no way you're going to put a Ronin RS2 or a Ronin 2 on my back with a crazy one with a steady cam and all that. Like, we just did a shoot last week where one of our camera operators, Jarov, had that on for probably 8 hours.
Wow.
I had to give him the day off the next day. And the guy's like 24 years old, right? So
yeah,
I could only imagine what it would have done to me if I had to do that.
It's like wrangling cameras is I exercise strictly so that I can hold cameras.
Sure.
Like comfortably, because I was told that your lower back is like one of your biggest assets, and anything in the workflow that can help to save your back from potential damage is invaluable. So
yeah,
that's cool. So that's an interesting story. So now you're an entrepreneur, it seems.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't know if you go by that necessarily definition, but multiple businesses and managing staff and all this, like.
Yeah, I'll be honest. There was definitely a point in my life where I was like, how do I make the most amount of money? Mm-hmm. Because I never, and that started with photojournalism. Mm-hmm. And a lot of my still close friends, there was a point where they were like, dude, you're selling out. Like you're chasing money. And I was like, fuck yeah, I am chasing the money. Like there's no way you're going to get me to work 10-hour days for, $550 a day or $750 a day. And at the end of the year, be taxed out my ass. Like I was not interested in that. I was interested in being the guy that, hopefully one day has a Ferrari or something like that. Right.
Yeah.
It was, even as a kid, I did like the idea of a businessman.
Yeah.
That lifestyle of, suiting up, looking good, and, having nice things, and there is areas to do that in this industry. And that's what I'm pursuing is, a lifestyle that, I don't have to really sit and be like, oh shit, like I better like hunt down some more clients right now because I don't even know if I can pay rent this month or make my car payment or, feed my family or whatnot. Right. Yeah. So, that's not what I wanted to be. I didn't want to be a starving artist. And, I've made definitely decisions in my life to make sure that wasn't the case.
I like that. I feel like it's oftentimes seen as like taboo to say like, I want to be wealthy. I want to have
100%
money because it's always perceived as like a selfish thing. But
and that's what I was saying to you earlier was I might say things today that pisses a couple people off. And I'm sure, a couple people might DM me after this and be like, dude, you sound like an egotistical asshole. But at the end of the day, we all have our own individual dreams and this is mine.
Yeah. And I mean, it's a fine line to walk because personally, I don't want to ever step on anyone. I do have very, very high goals for myself and the things I've built. And I always want to enable new experiences and like cool opportunities for everyone around me. But, I find when money is the only goal, it's like an empty one because if you do reach those, as you may know, like if you reach that target of let's say you have a set amount of money, you get there and you're like, now what? I'm still the same person.
Yeah.
I still have the same.
I still have creative goals, 100%. Kyle and I, before we die, we have to have produced a Super Bowl advertisement, not for the Super Bowl, but just something that runs during the Super Bowl.
Yeah. It's a cool goal.
That is not something that can be negotiated right now. Like we are moving in a direction and gaining new clients every day. One of our business partners, as of tomorrow, is moving to Toronto to gain more work for us, and Ottawa will be home base for sure, but we're trying to get bigger clients so that we can achieve that goal.
Absolutely.
And we won't stop until we get there.
Yeah. No, I respect that. It's cool. And it's, I mean, you have to aim high. You can't just like aim low because other people might not be able to come with you. Like I mean, you got to always go for the top, right?
Yeah.
Because then you kind of shoot for the stars, you fall down and whatever that saying is.
We say whenever we get a good deal or anything like that,
yeah,
we go to the moon. Mm-hmm. That's what we say.
Yeah, exactly. That's an interesting kind of, I feel like I've gotten to know you a bit. I hope the listeners have gotten to know you a little bit more. I want to get into, what does creativity mean to you as an individual, as a person?
Oh God.
Yeah. Can be surface level, can be deep, doesn't matter what it, like when you hear creativity, creative, what do you think of? What do you feel?
Yeah, I'm always drawn to the idea of trying new things, right? And even it could be things that may have been produced by other people, but it could be a new experience for you as a creative, right?
Okay.
Just for example, we recently did a commercial where I was doing research for it, and it was this big walk-in talk with a CEO, and I was like, I could only find one other like thing close to it. And when I had the morning prep talk with the crew, I turned to them and I was like, listen, we have the opportunity to do something for the first time, because I can't find this anywhere online. And I truly believe that we could produce something today that some people might look at in years to come and be like, oh, I want to replicate that.
Okay.
And for me, I think creativity stems from, taking a jump into something new for you, or something that you may have not done before, in the realm of artistic freedom.
I like that. It's terrifying though sometimes, that like leap into the unknown.
Oh, yeah.
Where there is no roadmap and you're literally just leaning on like, I think this is a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, early on, the amount of times that I would sell myself on being able to do a certain thing and getting that job and being like, oh shit. Like,
now you gotta do it.
Again, shout out to JVL. He was directly part of this. I remember my first like advertising shoot. They signed off on the contract and I was like, shit, man, like, I don't know how I'm going to get this done. And I hired JVL to be my assistant for the day. And I was like, okay, I'm going to pay you a little bit more because I'm going to need some advice on this shoot, but I don't want to look like an idiot. So if you can just like play it cool on the shoot. He was like, yeah, no worries. And I respected him so much for doing that for me, because I think he knew that, it was going to happen no matter what. But he also just didn't want to see me fail or fall on my face too hard. Right. For me, if I wasn't so ambitious back then, who knows if we'd be here now? I keep saying that, but it's true.
It is true. Yeah. If you don't take those leaps of faith, like you'll never know.
Yeah.
You'll never know
exactly
until you do it. That's cool. Everyone has a interesting meaning of creativity because it means something slightly different in everyone's life. So thank you.
By
for
the way,
sharing
this
that.
is JVL, guys. This is him.
JVL's inside here.
He's just in
This is the first time we have a 3-person podcast.
Thank you.
Hey, Justin. Oh man. Chris, what do you do for fun? Like I wrote on this, I was writing my notes and I was like, I wrote, what do you do for work? And then I was like, why the fuck? Screw that. I crossed it out. I wrote, what do you do for fun? So what do you do for fun?
I golf a lot.
Nice.
In the summer, I golf a lot.
Yeah.
I even golf alone a lot because that lets me work through problems that are going on with projects or ideas that I need to brainstorm. Because you get into this zone where you're in nature, right?
Right.
But you're also doing a sport. So you might be getting frustrated with the sport, but you can ground yourself again in nature. You let that kind of come back to you and you're like, this is beautiful. I'm out here, in the heat in this beautiful course. like stop getting frustrated about that problem and open your mind, open that third eye that you have inside your mind. And I'm going to quote a song here, sip inside the third eye, you got to do that. You really got to like find a task that is kind of, and a lot of people do this with exercise where, it's such a repetitive task almost, but in that repetitive task, you're able to kind of like find this like other universe that you can, focus on that at the same time. Mm-hmm. And that's what I do.
I like that.
Yeah. I also play a game called Rocket League on.
That's a fun game.
And I'm so addicted to this. It's bad. Like before work, I'll play 2 games, get home from work, play 2 games, maybe cook some dinner, whatnot, and then come back to it for like an hour or 2. And it's a children's game at the end of the day. I know there's a lot of adults that play it, but it's a children's game for sure.
That's the one where you're like playing.
You're playing soccer with cars.
Yeah, okay.
And you can fly through the air and hit the ball.
I was so bad at that game, but it was so fun.
See, and that's just it. Is like it's such a difficult game in certain aspects of it that I just wanted to get good at it. And I met some other people that played it, and they kind of taught me the way. And I was like, ooh, this is dangerous. So I've been playing that for 5 years now.
Now you have like friends, all this community of people that you hang out with there. It's pretty crazy, the video game space. Like I have many friends who play video games and it's like a whole other world of interaction and community that you can be that's built in those worlds.
And now with the size that we have at the office, we even have like a Discord that everybody that games in the office, they're part of the Discord, and it's like,
that's fun.
If you're at home and you're like, hey, I need an extra player on Call of Duty, you can throw it in there, and sometimes we meet up. They play a lot of this game called Tarkov, though.
Never heard of it.
Yeah, I will not explore it because I can't have more games going on in my life. That's for sure.
You're not showing up to work anymore.
Yeah.
Chris Collins sick.
Funny story, in college, there was this guy, and there's this guy, I'm going to use his nickname, Magoo.
Okay.
And he almost failed his second year because the new Call of Duty came out and he put so much time into it. And I remind myself of Magoo every time it gets too crazy. I'm like, okay, I can't be Magoo. I can't be Magoo.
Yeah. No Super Bowl commercial, but your level, whatever. In Rocket League.
I'm triple gold, platinum, diamond, whatever.
Become like a pro video game player. That's crazy. Like, that can actually be a career of like pro video game player.
Yeah. We even did some work with one league. I think it was like 2 years ago now, and just being immersed in that for even a day, I was just like, damn, that's cool. Mm-hmm. I'm glad that's a thing.
Yeah, it's cool. So Chris, what keeps you coming back day after day, year after year?
Yeah. Why
are you still doing this kind of work?
Oh man. Well, I think for me, I'm always trying to grow what we're doing, right? And it's great that we have, commercial video animation and photo company. But where I'm trying to expand right now is Phantom Entertainment, which is the documentaries that we're doing and the films that we're co-producing with other people. And that right now is a huge motivation for me. We still have a film right now, Nagano Till Now, that's in a film circuit. We were at South by Southwest. In 2 weeks, I'll be in New York for the Brooklyn International Film Festival.
That's cool. Airing that film?
Yeah. We're a semi-finalist for a couple of awards right now in Brooklyn.
Sweet.
So, hopefully things go well there. And, the film festival circuit runs pretty much year round. There's film festivals all the time, right? So there's like 11 other film festivals that we're waiting to hear back from, and that happens like every couple of weeks. Like there's dates that are allotted to that, right? So, I was looking at it and I was just like, dude, I could be traveling for the rest of the year almost, having to go to all these if we get into them, right? Mm-hmm. So, I love traveling. I love traveling for work. I love meeting new people, especially in the States. You go there and you're the Canadian. They like to joke around with you that you brought the cold or whatever. And
you're from where? Ottawa? What's that?
Yeah. But, there's been some offers recently that almost took me to LA, and it's a real possibility that within a few years, I'm running an office out of LA for Phantom, and,
It's amazing.
We have someone here doing, what is our day to day for the commercial side of things. Right. So, I see the next 10 years being super crucial to my career. As much as the first half has been, a fun ride, I really do believe the next 10 years are going to be even crazier for me in terms of what we're doing. We have another documentary right now that we just got a distributor for. It's called The Program, and it's about Carleton University's basketball team and Dave Smart specifically, the head coach. And, there's really high hopes for this, and there's a very, very healthy budget that we've been given for it. Right. So, we're going through the motions on that right now. And with as much success as we have had with Nagano till now, I see this next one being even bigger.
You take all the lessons learned from that one, right?
Yeah.
Apply them.
I mean, we didn't have a distributor signed on to Nagano till now. And basically what happened was, again, it was a bit of a little surprise, but my cousin there, Dean, when we started getting this success with it, I sent him the bio about it. And he was like, what the hell is this? It's like, this has happened. And I didn't tell you anything about it because I didn't, I just wanted to surprise you.
Yeah.
And he was like, this is amazing. I'm super proud of you. And to hear that from him was a huge moment for me. And when I told him about the next idea, he was like, okay, I'm going to co-produce this with you. And we're going to get a distributor. We're going to have as many eyes on this as possible. And I'll navigate for you, the process of working with Telefilm Canada and all that and getting your money and whatnot. And it's a very different way to go about things than our first one, which was self-funded. We probably put in about $25,000 into that first one, but now you're talking about, 6 digits that's attached to this next film.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So I can't wait for that. And will you share about that on like your Instagram and stuff? Like, will you?
Yeah. Like, we did start filming certain aspects just to gain interest.
Okay.
And I'm super glad that we did because Carleton won another championships this year.
Nice.
And we were there for all of it.
To get some footage for the movie?
Yeah, because at the end of the day, you kind of, when you go to these like Bell Media or whatnot, you kind of got to give them a taste of what to expect. They're not just going to hand you $300,000 and be like, hey.
Hope it works out.
Hope it works out, So we self-funded probably about 10K of the last half of the season for the team. We had a team out in Halifax for them winning the championship, which just kind of plays into the narrative. Like, again, it's not about basketball and the team playing basketball. It's more about this coach that created champions on the court, but also in life, because a lot of these men have gone on to be highly successful in EuroLeague or even in the businesses that they're working at now. They have high level positions or they've been entrepreneurs and had success. So you can definitely see that narrative throughout the whole thing. And that's what we're exploring is how did this program give a mentality of championships?
That's cool.
And being a champion.
That sounds really interesting.
Yeah.
So it's kind of about the coaches and the coach and his style, right?
Yeah. Like he's a crazy dude. Like, and he'll admit that, and I don't think he would have a problem with me saying that at the end of the day. Like,
I mean, he has results, right? It's not crazy for no reason.
Yeah. It's the greatest Canadian. It's even worldwide. It's the greatest dynasty that not a lot of people know about.
Wow. Winners
of 17 of the last 20 championships in this country.
Like for university basketball?
For university basketball.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That sounds really cool.
Even when we talked to Telefilm, they're like, and what school was this again? And I was like, oh my God.
Carleton?
Yeah.
Ottawa's always under the radar for everything.
Yeah.
In all my travels, I'm like, yeah, I'm from Ottawa. They're like, what's that? I'm like, Canada. Like, oh, Toronto, Montreal, always.
So
time to put Ottawa on the map.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll be honest, like there's doors that will open for you if you know the right people. And I'm lucky that my business partner played 5 years for Carleton U basketball.
Right.
So Dave, the coach, Dave Smart, had that feel of trust with us. There's not a lot of media interviews that he does because he never wants the distraction of it. So that's why it's kind of an untold story at this point, right? And, without Kyle being part of this project, I don't know if it would have happened. So, we have to count our blessings.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I wish you all the best moving forward.
Yeah.
And, now that you're, not that you're at a turning point, but you're kind of at a stage in your life where you have a 10-year plan, what is, if you could go back to a point in time and tell your past self something, like, what would you do? Or what would you tell yourself?
I definitely wouldn't have bought that first Audi car that I bought, but the second one was good, but the first one was bad.
Said every Audi owner.
I probably would have said, hey, don't marry that first girl either. Cause that was problems as well. But career wise, that's tough, because I look back at this and everything was a stepping stone. And, had I gone to Algonquin instead of going to Carleton, I wouldn't have probably had the same life. Mm-hmm. It would have been, commercial advertising, photography from the start, which plays into the fact that I know how to tell stories from pictures and moving pictures now. Photojournalism really teaches you that. So I wouldn't have changed the path. It would have been, more personal life things that I would have changed. One other thing is I would have trained my dog that I have now because he is a psychopath. And I know a lot of people know him. Shout out Ben. You're my best friend. But he's a crazy dog. Yeah. Always getting into trouble. He's 12 years old now and he's still causing messes every day. So I definitely would have trained Ben, not gotten married, and not bought that first Audi.
That's so funny. So now knowing this, is there any message you would leave to 10 years from now, Chris, future Chris?
I know right now the hard thing for me is, especially when I go to the States, is, navigating that feeling inside where it's like, okay, I'm from a small town, Ottawa. Yeah, sure. We got 1 million people, but we are a small town when you're going to LA and New York City. And as much as, ego and confidence play a very, parallel line that you have to navigate, just rely on your confidence that you have as a creative.
I like that. Rely on the confidence. That confidence needs to be kind of curated and built, I find, as someone who is still
yeah, we're gaining light now.
We're gaining light. The freaking cover.
Nobody can see this, but
the cover on the door just fell off. The exposure probably changed. Ryan's gonna hate me for that.
Yeah, where's
Sorry,
the PA on this set to deal with this?
Yeah, we fired them all. Just kidding. They were we never hired them. One day we'll have a full crew. We'll have 10 people behind the camera of the Creatives Podcast.
Yeah, for sure.
That'd be crazy. That's interesting. I do appreciate you sharing your perspective and stories and kind of insight into your world, because from what I gathered, like, for someone who doesn't know you, it's kind of hard to get to know you based on how you exist on the internet, because like you don't really have a whole lot of information about Chris on the internet.
No,
there's a lot of the work you do, but I do appreciate you. So thank you.
I'm a mysterious guy.
You're a mysterious guy. Never, like, this might be the only time I ever speak to you. Hopefully not, because you're a cool dude. But do you have any advice for aspiring creatives, photojournalists, just people?
Course. Yeah, and this is something that I get asked a lot, so I do have an answer for you.
I love that.
And I go back to the early stages, especially when I was at Loyalist. like I said, there was really 5 of us that took that program seriously. And one thing that we all did religiously was look at as many photos as possible in a day. And that's where Instagram, I remember when it came out and people started posting work, I was like, holy shit, this is fucking amazing, because all I want to take in is other people's content and be like, that's a great idea. I need to push myself harder. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it is when I look at great work, it motivates me to do better work, right? And I think you need to consume as much content as possible. If you're in video, watch as many movies as possible, or watch as many documentaries as possible, so that you can be like, get ideas from it, but also use it as motivation, right? Mm-hmm. And, you know, even now, like, there's 3 disciplines that we have within our company, and it's photo, video, and animation. I'm even doing this with animation now. You know, 3 years ago, I didn't know any animation studios in Canada. Animations is something that we had to offer because it made sense. I remember like going through the motions of writing our first script and trying to communicate to an animator how I wanted it to look. And you know, how I got there was looking at other people's work so that I could pull examples and be like, here's how I want it to come together. And you can do that for yourself too. You can put a mood board together for yourself and be like, go into a shoot and be like, this is the light that I want. This is the wardrobe that I think we should have. And this is how I'm going to execute on getting the look and feel that I think would make this a successful shoot. Mm-hmm. And that is Instagram. That is, you know, YouTube, and, you know, any streaming platform right now, I use as motivation to create better work or more engaging work for our clients or even for ourselves.
That's cool. I mean, what I find difficult about that is getting lost in the consumption.
Oh yeah.
Like so much to the point where you're like, all you're doing is consuming.
That's all I do, man.
But then
you ask anybody, I'm on Instagram. Like there's people in my life that will be like, dude, you need to relax on Instagram. You know, like I always see the green dot. Like you're always online. Yeah. And it's come to a point even with memes is where, you know, people will send me memes. I'm just like, old, seen it. Yeah. And people hate that about me. It's like, you know, I take it in so quick that any free second, I'm just like scrolling. I'm just like, oh, that's nice. That's really nice. That's
like mental notes. Like try this.
I not the archive, but the save button. Yeah. And I come back to them when we have shoots, and it's like, you know, especially when you have those very creative shoots where it's like, yo, these guys in New York or LA or London or whatever, like they are killing it. Like we need to incorporate these aspects to our work.
Mm-hmm. That's cool. I mean, as someone who is a creator and a consumer of digital, I find it's there's diminishing marginal returns to consumption. So if I consume too much, I'm like, that was like a problem I had early on. I was like watching all these videos, how-to videos, tutorials, this, that.
That's tough.
And then it's like, and I'm like, wait, I haven't made anything, but I know how in theory. But then I was like, screw this, threw that all aside.
Well, and you have to have the execution, that's for sure.
Yeah.
You know, what I will say is when I was in college, Instagram wasn't a thing, right? So for us, it was this site called, well, the Boston Globe, which is a newspaper, but they had this thing called the Boston Globe Big Picture, which was, they had something like 5 photo editors at that time. This is not a thing anymore because, you know, journalism is not profitable. So what it was curated galleries, like, and you'd probably get 5 new galleries a day. And it was width to width of the web page that they would put these, right? And they would do end of the week. Like, you know, last night there was the end of the Heat Celtics Eastern Conference final. They would have done an Eastern Conference final, you know, curated gallery with like 50 photos, and it's just like beautiful images that you're looking at and you're like, oh my God, like I need to figure out how to do that. And, you know, I was lucky enough to have a photo in a gallery once there, and it was it was a sticking point for people when we were in college, because I was in college when I got a photo into there, because I had shot it for Reuters, and it was like the crowning moment in that phase of my life where I was like, wow, I have a photo in Boston Globe Big Picture. Like, this is amazing. But that is what I looked at day after day after day to motivate myself to try new angles, think of different techniques, you know, slow shutter, faster shutter, wider aperture, you know, whatnot. It all stemmed from looking at as many images as possible.
I like that. I think you are unique in that sense,
Yeah,
because
maybe.
I don't see mass consumption of social media digital content to be constructive for many people.
Possibly.
I mean, most people.
I'm a different breed, man.
You definitely are a different breed, because you take that, you retain it, you make notes. But I find the consumption, like myself, may be a detriment to creativity and execution, because you're like, oh, what's the point? 30 million people have done this already.
Yeah.
But it takes a unique person to go, okay, this many people have done it, but they haven't done it like this.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's just, I think it's a thing for me. It's something to tread carefully, and it's something. The relationship with social media has been so weird over the last couple of years for me, because I'm like I like using it, I like communicating, I like community, and then it's like. Next second I'm like, delete the app off my phone. Like,
oh wow,
get off my phone. I'm like not that drastic, but like I'm just like, this is going nowhere. I need to focus on what's in front of me.
I think how I look at it now is it's very much my pre-production research part of that phase.
Okay,
it's part of that phase for me.
It's a good way of looking at it.
Yeah,
rather than it's not entertainment necessarily. Like, it is, but.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like, when we started this basketball documentary, I went out and watched pretty much every basketball documentary I could find.
Cool.
And I just wanted to look at it. And, you know, I was thinking about center court interviews in a gym. And I was like, okay, take mental note of every documentary that you've seen of center court gym shot and break down how they did the lighting for it. And, you know, I reverse engineered, okay, they had, you know, a key light there and whatnot. And, yeah, that's how I do it.
I like it.
Yeah.
Well,
so I just basically what I'm saying is I steal work from everybody that I find, and I just copy everybody, and that's how I got here.
That's exactly it.
And show now. Now I'm joking.
Just cut to black. That's the end of the show. No, that's interesting, Chris. And I mean, it's cool to get to know you more than just the, you know, internet presence and business person that you are.
Yeah.
So thank you.
No worries.
To kind of wrap it up, I've got a couple fun questions.
Yeah.
To ask.
Yeah.
Just, you know.
It's red underwear today.
Red underwear. Okay.
Yeah.
Is it just because it's?
I'm joking.
What day of the week is it? It's Wednesday, Tuesday. I lost track. It's not snowing though, because historically every episode we've done has been snowing. Not every
Really?
episode. This was started late.
Well, Chris Snow is here, so it's technically snowing.
Chris Snow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, 2 Chris's in a row. Yeah, there's Chris Snow. Now Chris.
It's a bit of a crisscross right now.
We're just gonna end the episode right there.
All right, give me these fun ones. Though.
Chris, sunrise or sunset?
Shit.
You have to pick one.
Well, here's what I'll say is I hate when I go out too long at night with my friends and I'm seeing the sunset. That sucks.
Sunrise, you mean?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, the sunrise. And
You're like, I should go home.
And yeah, it always bugged me. I was like, oh my God, I stayed out way too late. So I would say, you know, sundown is it's more of like a you can get different colors out of that, right? It can depending if you're near water too, you can get some really crazy colors. So I think I'm definitely a sundown guy.
Cool. You're going to battle. What camera tool are you taking as a weapon?
Like I gotta kill someone with it? Or?
Like you're going to battle, and like if you gotta protect yourself and you gotta fight. Like
probably like an airy orbiter, just because like it would smash someone's head.
Just throw it at them.
Yeah.
I literally rented one of those for a project last week. I got to the rental house. I'm like, this is not gonna fit in my car. I'd never seen it before.
Oh yeah, it's a big piece.
It's freaking enormous.
Yeah.
Cool light.
And there's bigger ones too.
Yeah. If you had to pick one lens. forever.
Oh yeah,
One focal length.
This is easy.
Okay.
It's a 51 too.
Nice.
Yeah, it doesn't matter who makes it. Just a 50 mil 1.2.
That's a good choice. Yeah, that's a very general purpose lens.
Yeah. I know a lot of people like the 35, but I always stocked myself with a very, polished, new as possible. Like even I've gone through more 50s in my life than any other lens. That's for sure.
Like you break them?
No, I just mean like when I felt that they were getting soft, I would move on from them and get a brand new one.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I love 50s, like for photography and
yeah. And even now, like I still, I'm still taking photos, not for clients though. Right. And I bought a Sony G Master 51.2, at the start of this year. And I love that lens a lot. Yeah, it's a really nice lens. Super crisp. Good focal length.
So 50.
Yeah.
You're stuck with 50 forever.
Yeah.
And our last question, this is a random amount.
Uh-oh.
But if you were given $937,000, like right now, I just handed it to you. You have to spend it today. It's 4 p.m. You have to spend it before midnight, or
I got my answer.
Or you lose it all.
Yeah.
What are you doing?
I would invest in Ottawa's soundstage. I really want to see that happens. And that kind of, is a broad thing to say, but, I'm invested in bringing as much to this city as possible. And even if I end up in LA, I will never forget that Ottawa is home for me. And I do want to see the success of this city, especially in the entertainment video side of it, succeed. And recently, a lot of us have been talking about how to get that soundstage here, and it is going to take a pile of cash. So I would definitely put that money into investing into the soundstage.
Well, I got good news for you. I have it right now.
Yeah, bring it out of your pocket.
Imagine. So wait,
is this Ant-Man? Are we in Ant-Man right now?
Just to clarify, a soundstage is like a movie studio, right?
Yeah. So there was Triborough Studios was going to open a 3-stage, not far from here, with film offices. Sadly, the main financial backer of that died during COVID. Oh,
that sucks.
And he was a fellow Greek as well. I didn't know the guy, but the deal fell apart when that happened. And, thankfully right now we have a new head of the film office in Ottawa, a lovely lady that came from Paris. And her main goal too is to get a soundstage in this city. Because we all know that once you have a soundstage, it's like Field of Dreams, if you know that movie. Build it and they will come, right? And if Ottawa had a soundstage, we're going to have more unionized work starting in here from Netflix, Amazon, and whatnot. And that's just going to drive the talent pool of this city. And, we were even talking about this in a staff meeting today where we're thinking of getting one of our guys trained on the ARRI, why am I blanking now? The Steadicam thing. Why am I blanking? It's
the film cam, or the one that shoots on.
You know the Steadicam made by ARRI. Why am I blanking? This is so
the Trinity. Yeah.
Oh my God. So we're thinking about getting one of our guys certified for a Trinity operator because at the end of the day, you can bill out a Trinity operator for $5,000 a day. And it's like, we'll do that if a soundstage is here because it's going to be needed. And it's just like more of that is going to take place in the city as soon as that location makes itself available in Ottawa.
That's cool. I look forward to that day.
Yeah, it's going to be sick.
I do have high hopes for Ottawa. I think we're on a really cool trajectory and it's a really awesome time to be establishing oneself in this city.
Yeah. I mean, there's even people that are talking right now about getting investors to get the virtual production wall like they use in Mandalorian. Like there's some serious conversations in the city right now about getting that money. So, things are coming. And that's why I said, early on in this podcast, like I very much look forward to seeing what 35 years from now in the creative space in Ottawa looks like.
Yeah. Well, you'll have a pristine lower back because you retired touching cameras.
Yeah. Or it's ruined because I'm picking at my dog too much from getting the shit, but we'll see.
If he lives another 35 years, I mean, that's Incredible.
Oh, I hope he does. I'm gonna like duplicate his chromosomes soon and make sure he lives forever.
Then you just have it like messes.
I hate
in your
him, but I
house
love him
for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Shout
That's
out
awesome.
Ben. Fucking love
Shout
you.
out Ben. We should have brought him. Well, thank you for joining us today, Chris. Thanks for your
thank
time.
you.
Thanks for being here. I had a great time chatting with you, even though our light may have changed if you're watching this on video.
Oh yeah, true.
I need to get better at taping up this piece of just
It's
covering
okay.
a door. It's a giant glass door.
Yeah. I mean, I put my makeup on before we started, so it shouldn't affect me too much. But
Yeah.
maybe you. I don't know.
It's all good.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for listening, Chris. Thanks for being here.
No worries, my man.
Thank you to our editor Ryan for putting in hard work behind the scenes to get these episodes out. Thank you Midnight Hour Studios for sponsoring this podcast, and thank you to Pano Media for also sponsoring this podcast. This has been The Creatives episode 18, and we'll see you on the next episode.